Most people don't really say what they mean. So let's change that. Hey, I'm Elisa, and this is The Conversation, a space for truth, honesty, and real expression. No filters, no fake talk, just real conversations that actually matter. If that's what you've been looking for, you're in the right place. Subscribe because we're just getting started. Let's start with this. When you think about your upbringing, what do you feel shaped you the most?
That's a good question.
Let's
Well,
get it.
um, as I stated before, I'm the product of an adultery. My father was a married man when he met my mom, and he I believe was running from God and had been running from God for years. His background, from what I understand, really coming from the church, he didn't want to accept what was a call on his life, and he decided to act a little crazy and act out. And in that time, I ended up being here, and along with my brother and a couple others. Okay. um,
Hello and welcome to The Conversation with Elisa. I have my guest today. Would you please introduce yourself?
I am Anthony Harden.
And why are you here today?
Well, I'm getting ready to have a conversation with Lisa. I do. First of all, thank you for having me on your podcast here, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to discuss. It's been a long time since we've connected and spoken, so when you reached out, I was pretty excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I am thrilled. This is our first episode, and this is a space about being truthful, leading with honesty, and creating room to express about everything. So let's get into it. What brings you here today?
Well, we're going to have some conversation, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. So, I'm kind of open to whatever it is that this discussion is in terms of direction is going to go. So, and I'm actually kind of honored. I'm your first conversation. So
Yeah.
this is I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's see what we can get into.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, we want it to flow, we want it to be organic. And so let's start with this. When you think about your upbringing, what do you feel shaped you the most?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Well, let me tell you what I've thought about my upbringing over the years. For full transparency, okay, I am the product of an adultery. Okay. I am the product of an adultery. Now, I don't know how open you want the conversation to be, right?
Well, it all depends on you and how you feel.
Okay.
As there are going to be individuals that are going to hear this conversation and be able to walk away with an answer.
Okay.
They could be deadlocked where they can't move because they don't know which direction to go. But I believe that you will give them some insight on today.
Okay. Very good.
Let's
Well,
get it.
um, as I stated before, I'm the product of an adultery. My father was a married man when he met my mom, and he I believe was running from God and had been running from God for years. His background, from what I understand, really coming from the church, he didn't want to accept what was a call on his life, and he decided to act a little crazy and act out. And in that, time, I mean, I ended up being here, and along with my brother and a couple others. Okay. um, um, but in that period, realistically, when he did give his life to the Lord, for the first 5 years of my life, I had him. He lived with me. After he gave his life back to the Lord, he had to leave his wife. I mean, not leave his wife, but he had to leave me and go back to his family because he could no longer run. And it's ironic because, and then I'll get into his original family and his wife and his kids, because there's some incredible people, my siblings and their mom. But when he gave his life back to the Lord, I saw what I could remember of who he was at that point. And how it shaped me is basically I ended up wanting or even trying to be a lot like him in that regard. And through all of the gamuts, through the crazy thinking, all the way to the fact that giving my life to the Lord and ministering for God and doing all of that. So the upbringing, with all the stories and what I've heard about his life growing up in ministry and growing up in the church and all of that, it can put pressure on you. But at the same time, you have to understand, when you have your own relationship with the Lord, what it is that he wants for you to do. So it's been a journey. It has been a journey, a long journey. But I think where I'm at today, in hindsight, looking at everything, because you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. You can see where the hand of God has been in your life and what he has done to just get you to where you are right now. So knowing what I know, knowing how I was raised, understanding the dynamics of that time and how things progressed and what kind of happened, I'm thankful for where God has brought me. I really am, and I'm excited about what he's doing now, but even more so about what he's going to do in the future.
Can I ask you, you said at the age of 5 years old is when your father left you.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate on how you felt, if you can recall that
Honestly,
feeling?
I don't really recall or even know what it felt like, because I saw him every day of my life after that. Right? I mean, he would come and see me and my brother every day before he went to work and before he went home. Every day. And we knew that he wasn't living there, but we saw him every day. And during the summers when school was out, because he had two businesses, as he grew, or as we grew up, we would go work with him in his businesses. So we spent time with our brothers and sisters, and also during those summers, he would take us out of state to go visit our grandmother, his mother, in Missouri. So we saw him every day. He just didn't live with us. Right? Okay. right? And it wasn't until we got a little older that we understood why. We didn't know why first, but then when that understanding came, we realized, oh, okay. But when you're that young, you don't understand the dynamics of relationships and things like that. You just know that this is your reality.
At what age was it that you understood what had happened?
Probably probably 8 years old. Okay. I knew what was going on at that time. And, during that time in the 70s and during and the early 80s, I growing up as latchkey kids and things like that, you grow up quick. You have to grow up quick. I remember walking to my elementary school at 6 and 7 years old by myself, which is around the corner from where I used to live, King Elementary. And I remember walking to that school by myself, that young. No way you would let a kid do that today. But back then, it was just a different time. And the understanding of certain dynamics, especially as it related to my father not being married to my mother, but also having a wife and a family at that time. Yeah, I understood that at 8.
Okay. You're pretty smart because 8 is pretty young.
Yeah.
Let's transition a little bit and talk a little bit about the other family,
Hmm.
that dynamic, your relationship with the other family.
Now or then?
Then,
Then it was
then,
contentious. It was
okay.
contentious, especially with the boys, the sons. The sons, I mean, everybody knew about my brother and I, but there was no acceptance there, right? There was no acceptance there. So growing up as kids, and mind you, they're older than me. They're probably approximately 6 to 8 years older than I am. Okay. And being that young and then seeing them, there would always be contention because their um, response to seeing my brother and I was always wanting to physically beat us up, is what they would try to do. Right. And which is funny to think about now because um, we all have our father's DNA, right? And those moments were funny because my brother and I would always talk to our dad about that, and he would say, "Don't worry about that. They're never gonna do it." So even if they would try, they know better, right? Okay, so they would never do it. But growing up, there was contention because we were the other kids. We
I
were the
understand.
so it was crazy.
How's the relationships now? Just moving a little bit into the future.
Now that we're older, it's great.
Okay.
We've long accepted each other, long accepted each other, and yeah, we don't get a chance to see each other very often. Now, some we have more community in terms of conversation and talking and seeing each other than others because everybody's kind of moved away in that regard. But when I get back to the area, I always reach out to my oldest sister there and make time to spend time with her and catch up and do everything and reach out to my younger sister, on birthdays and stuff like that. And every now and then the boys will get on a FaceTime or talk on the phone, every now and then. But in terms of acceptance, you can't do anything about it now. We're all here, right? So
Yes.
so we've just accepted it to be what it is, and we understand that we're related, and that is what that is.
Sometimes it's difficult when there is that type of dynamic, um, whether young or older, and acceptance.
Hmm.
But it sounds great, to learn that you all were able to work through that, and and you guys have a great relationship now. That's awesome.
Hmm. Part of that, I think, if I were to point to the real driver of that, I would point to their mother, my stepmother. Um, she she was a remarkable woman, a remarkable woman. I mean, she accepted, and I don't know, I know she went through a challenge herself, but she never divorced my father. And that it every time I think about that, it messes me up a little bit to think about this, because this woman had a relationship with God that I know was real. Okay. She saw this man act crazy. He literally acted crazy. And she watched this whole thing unfold, at least for the 5 years that he left her to be with me, my mom, and my brother. And she never divorced that man. And I asked her one time why she didn't do that. And her response to me was, because I believed God would bring him back. Now, let me tell you what I think about that. Right? Okay. Let me tell you what I think. Now, mind you, this man is out here wild, creating offspring, and he's married. And she knows it, but she didn't divorce him. And it wasn't because she didn't think she could go get another man. It was because she believed in her relationship with the Lord that he would change. And when he did, he went right back. And the reason why I say I think the relationship between me and my siblings is what it is because of her. She had accepted me and my brother as her children.
Mm.
And whenever we would go, and whenever I would go home to visit, and I made a point when I did, I left home at 18 to go into the Navy. And even before then, my father passed when I was 16. So when I left home to go into the Navy, I would go home to visit, but I'd always make a point to go visit her as well when I was there. And she embraced me like I was her flesh and blood. She would introduce me as I was her son, not stepson, her son. And she was a proud mother of just who I became, what I became, my brother, my younger brother, what he became, and really kind of reveled in the fact that, you know what, I'm proud of you. Your dad will be proud of you, the whole thing, right? So for her to have embraced us, I think it made it easier for my siblings, her children, to do so. Because she, in my opinion, was the epitome of a saved woman. This woman was remarkable, just remarkable. And a lot of that, I think, has really rubbed off on the children and my siblings. And just how we all interact today. It's like, hey, listen, none of us asked for what became, but we all have learned to live with the fact that, you know what, God has a purpose for our own lives. So let's just go do what we were supposed to be doing.
Let's pause for a second. Let that marinade. If we were to bring it to today, there are a lot of women who would reject the child or children in fear of being, should I say, a choice, when in fact you hit it. You said remarkable. She was a remarkable woman to have received you all, embraced you as her children, and that within itself is a sign of the love she had for your father.
Oh, absolutely.
To be able to love the children, I just think that's awesome.
No, it is. It is. I mean, but I think that love she had came from God. It had to, because, you know, we didn't ask to be here. You know, I mean, we had no role to play in getting here, but we're here.
Yeah.
And we have an assignment for being here, especially if we understand what that really means. And to know that in the course of everything that has been done to produce the fact that we're breathing air, we're still breathing air, and we're breathing air for a reason. And to go back and look at the way the whole construct happened and to see the role she played, even in my life, I always gave her flowers when I saw her. I always picked up the phone to call her to see how she was doing. Even when I went into the Navy at 18, all the way up to the day she went home to be with the Lord. Okay. I was available because I realized this woman played an incredible role. She even befriended my mom. That's how incredible this woman was. Okay. And I talk about her often because I want everybody to know and understand not everybody's built like that. I get it. They're not. But when you understand why you're breathing air, you know how to put boundaries and parameters and compartmentalize things on the outside that would cause you to get off the gate you're supposed to be in. This woman was incredible. And I speak about it often. And it is what it is.
What's something from your past that changed how you feel or view relationships today?
Something from my past. I'll tell you specifically, and I had to learn this the hard way. And most oftentimes we do learn it the hard way. When it concerns any relationship, I don't care what the relationship is, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a relative, whether it's a friend, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to guard your heart. Okay. When you don't know who you are, it's easy to try to get validation from somebody else to help you understand what it is that you're really supposed to be doing. And because people are fallible and they're not perfect, they don't always understand what it takes or how to go in and out of a conversation to help another individual truly become, or even become a catalyst to help that individual become who they're supposed to be. So what ends up happening is that person who needs something gets hurt. Like I said, my father left at 16. He passed away at 16. Well, for a young man, that period is pivotal in your development in becoming a man. So what happened to me is I got angry because I didn't have that. It was gone. So I didn't trust anybody. Any male role model wasn't my father. Mind you, I saw this man every day. Okay. So as I grew up, as I began to get older, as I began to mature, I found myself trying to please. And the pressure of doing that, this is the joke I always say. That's the reason why I don't have any hair today. Right? Okay. Because of that. But what I learned from that, thank God for that. What I learned from that is I can never let another person's opinion of me outweigh my own, of myself. When you're becoming, if somebody is bringing constructive discussion that helps you become and grow and be who you are, then you can determine if you need to take it on. But if it's not that, and there's relationship, you have to understand what degree that relationship should be in your life. So for me, everything stems from the premise of guarding your heart. Why? Scripture says, for out of it flow the issues of life. So if the issues of life are flowing out of my heart, it's because of how I'm dealing with what's going on. I need to now assess the landscape in relationship and understand whether or not that's building me or it's taking away from me. Mm-hmm. That's how I guard my heart and everything. So when I tell people today, I don't stress over nobody, because I don't. I've learned from trial and error, hard trial and error, to put people in perspective and to understand the only person I need to please is the one who's responsible for giving me this hair. You understand what I'm saying? So relationships, we have to know what they're there for. We have to know what they're there for. And if we don't understand that, that's where we first have to start. Because everything that comes after that, you have to determine whether or not that time involvement is moving you forward. Because if it's not, it's inevitably taking you back. And you got to know.
So I want to ask you, what type of man are you now?
That's almost an open-ended question.
What type of man are you now based on your childhood? Yeah, we'll leave it there. Based on your childhood, what type of man are you? Or it could be a loaded question. Father, whether you're married. So how does fatherhood look like? What does marriage look like for you?
Okay. So I this year be my 32nd year being married.
Congratulations.
Same woman, 30, only one marriage, 32nd year. I have 6 kids, all ranging from 33 down to 20, and all successful, all doing what they're supposed to do. The kind of man that I would describe myself to be today is I'm definitely I'm I'm a lot like my father in being no nonsense. Okay. Um, I love the Lord. I'm definitely a man of God. Okay. I'm God's son in that regard because God is the one who's brought me through all these years, coming from my background, if you will, right? And I believe completely in understanding the purpose for your life and why you're here and what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Um, and it's important. I didn't do any of the stuff my father did. Praise God. Right? But I did do the stuff and am doing the stuff that he became after he gave his life back to the Lord. Okay. And so the kind of man that I am, I'm really, really resonant and anchored in making sure the example for my children. I don't practice what I preach what I practice. So it's important for me for them to see me do what I tell them to do, and anybody else for that matter. I don't have to pretend because this is just who I am and it's how I live. So um, authenticity is huge. So if I were to say that what kind of man I am today, when people say what you see is what you get, what you see is what you get.
Now, so with, if I could ask you, um, what type of relationship do you have with your children?
Actually,
Or
it's actually
they're adults, excuse me, I'm
they
sorry.
are they
Your
are
adult children.
they are. I'd say it was great. They probably would say it was great too. Um, they would probably say growing up as kids, they would say that I was disciplined. I was a disciplinarian, and I was a disciplinarian because that's how I was raised. Having a single mom, she had to be strong armed to make sure that her two sons would not get away from her. Okay,
Mhm.
so but as a father, being there for my kids the whole time, being a disciplinarian, instruction was important. Okay, um, discipline was important, but focus was also important. It was very important. Now, as they're adults, they better realize why I had them on the track that I had them on, because they're all pretty successful in what it is that they're doing. But it was really all because of a vision that I was given when they started coming into the world, that I needed to position them in order to train them up in the way that they should go. And you know what? They're seeing the result of that. So today, with them being adults, our relationship is great. But what I used to do with them in terms of instruction, I don't necessarily have to do that anymore. Being, their father, it's more counsel. What do you think? And I always tell them I don't have an opinion. I have to give you what God is telling me. So, but for the most part, they listen. They listen, and they're getting the results and seeing the fruit of that. So I'm pretty proud of them.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you were pretty militant. And so with that being said, is there a tender side to you?
Oh
And if
yes,
can you expound on that a little bit pertaining to your children, your adult children,
yes,
your
yes,
affection, your love?
yes, yes. And I think I probably express it more through how I treat their mom, right? I want them to see me love on their mom. They've always seen me love on their mom. Okay. And I've loved on them too. It's especially with my twin daughters, right? And they're 22 now, but they're funny in that regard because I'm like, really, as it relates to those two, they kind of got me wrapped around their finger, if you will, in that regard. I always want to make sure that they don't have any stress at all. But at the same time, I want to make sure they understand how to move and how to be and how to do. So the balance between being former military, and my wife was former military as well. That's how we met. So there was structure there for discipline, but at the same time, I would play with my kids on the floor, when they were growing up. All my kids, when they were in their athletic exploits, was there at everything they did. Okay, so and encouraging them, pushing them, growing them, but also showing them the soft side when that soft side needed to be there, because I knew life wasn't just about go 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 do 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 do. You got to balance. You got to have some balance to this thing. But a lot of that expression of them being able to see that, yeah, I definitely wanted them to know that, yeah, I can be that. I'm there. I can do that. But they always saw it with me and their mom because I wanted them to see it. I needed them to see it. And not having an example of that in my life, it was important for me to create the frame and the groundwork that was necessary for them to understand this is how you treat a woman. From my sons, and then from my daughters, understand this is how you need to be treated. And if you're not treated like that, then make the cut. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's important. It's important to have that balance and to understand what that is.
Absolutely. So this has been an exciting conversation here. And how are you feeling right now at this moment?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. And it's been great to just be able to just share and even catch up in that regard, right? And to understand some things, because a lot of times we get to a certain place in our life and we don't really take time to understand how we even got here. And then when you really sit back and you start connecting the dots, like I had mentioned before, you understand certain things in your life, and especially if you have a relationship with the Lord, you understand where his hand has been on your life, what he's actually done, and how you've been able to get to where you are. But it also brings somewhat of a perspective and a lens for even where you're going. Okay. So timing is everything. It literally is everything. So even my having this conversation with you right now, this has been great. We can get into a lot of stuff, but this has been great. Just even right now, because even for those who may listen and hear this particular interview and find themselves really being able to relate to a lot of what I've said, I will say this, that if you're breathing, that means you're supposed to get past it. Okay, whatever it is. I said this one time to a person I was talking to, and they were really having some challenges, and this is just something God dropped in my spirit. I said, take a deep breath. And they took a deep breath. I said, do it again. And they did it again. And they asked me why. And I said, because how much of that air was tied to the issues that you're really going through right now? And the very fact that you can still breathe means you're supposed to get past it. As hard as it may be, you're supposed to get past it. Why? Because the work is not done as it relates to your life. So for me, this conversation is what I'm used to on a daily basis. So to do it in this medium, this is who I am. This is what I'm used to.
This is awesome. I'm thrilled. I just want to take this time to thank you for coming on the conversation, where that you have been truthful, you have been honest, you have expressed yourself, and I'm sure that, um, not just me, because I've gained a lot of insight and things that I'm going to carry on with me beyond this conversation, but those that are watching or that will watch this conversation will also be able to um, find answers,
That's
for these are conversations that a lot of times are unspoken of. And so for you to come and make yourself vulnerable, as we didn't rehearse, this
right.
is definitely organic. And so I just do want to just say thank you for just coming, taking out your time and sharing with men, women, and children that may see this. This has been great. I just want to say thank you again. Is there any closing comment that you would like to make? Are there any things that you're working on? A book? I don't know, but you may have things that you are working on in the back and want to share with the viewers.
Well, you know, well, the book thing that's probably in the future, right? Um, I guess the biggest thing would be this. It would be that really what I like to express to everybody is the understanding. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Okay, I want to thank you for having me and just being able to explain and express what it is that is there to say. Okay, but I will end with this for any hearer and listener who will see this particular podcast and interview. If I were to leave you with anything, it would be this: is to understand that your existence as it is today has nothing to do with whatever it is that's going on in your life. If anything, what's going on in your life is there to propel you forward for what it is that you're actually supposed to be doing. And when you lock in on what that is, it brings perspective to all of what you've gone through and even what you're going through right now. Because now that allows you to supersede it. And then you open yourself up to be able to receive understanding that puts perspective on what it is that you're going through. It doesn't matter what it is that you're going through, sickness, all of that. It doesn't matter because we're still breathing, right? So even with the time that we have to do with that what it is that we're supposed to do with that. Because we have to, at some point, understand that somebody is waiting on us to show up. And we're supposed to give them something that they need to help them move into where they're supposed to go into. I'm a child of God. So my belief system is my life is not my own. So since my life is not my own, I know somebody's waiting on me to show up. So whoever is listening to this, you have to understand this appointed time was for you. You needed to hear it. You needed to understand whatever it was that I said that was going to help you, and then connect to the Lord so he can show you what you're supposed to do with your life. And then from there, things will become more clear, and you'll understand the why behind all the craziness. And you'll even understand when craziness comes, how to deal with it. This is authenticity. This is authenticity of what it is to live, a God-centered life in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in the kingdom of God. This is all relationship, no religion. This is relationship, and this is what it looks like when we move out here in the world. So if I were to leave anything, it would be that. Anything else that I'm doing, it'll come out when it's time to come out. But for right now, I think this is what anybody listening needs to understand is get the proper perspective.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going to wrap this up. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for watching The Conversation with Elisa. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching The Conversation with Elisa. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and please leave a comment.